will you lay down your life for me? Very truly, I tell you, before the cock crows, you will have denied me 3 times. You know, we are in a sermon series now talking about the nature of forgiveness, kind of what makes up forgiveness, what the importance of forgiveness. Last week we talked about being hurt and what that means. Today I want to talk a little bit more about relationships. Because I think at the center of this scripture and the ones that I'll share in just a little bit later, we'll find that there is a certain sense to which this is a complicated matter. Again, the sermon series is more than I'm sorry. Because forgiveness is more than just words, it is action, it is deed. And so as we look at the scripture today, we see the first signs here in John's Gospel. Some concern, some tension that is built between Jesus and Peter in those words. Listen to how he says it. Jesus answered, "Will you lay down your life for me?" Jesus knows. Jesus knows what will happen to Peter. Jesus knows, and he shares some of that with Peter. He shares some of his pain. He shares some of his hurt. He shares some of what he is struggling with, the concerns that he has. Keep in mind that even though Jesus was fully God, Jesus was fully human, and because of that, Jesus struggles and suffers and aches just like us. And so Jesus is hurt and Jesus is pained by what he is prophesying that Peter will do. Very truly, I tell you, before the cock crows, you will have denied me 3 times. See, it's not just once. I think that we might be able to overlook that in our own lives when someone does something once, right? We have this notion of what it means in common culture. And common culture says, well, what you do is you forgive, but you don't forget. Because that old adage, forgive and forget, we don't believe that you should forgive and forget, because then what happens is punishment and pain and suffering and all of those things. And so we forgive, but we don't forget, because the second time that someone wrongs us, the second time, addition there, the second time that someone wrongs us, that's 1 time too many. And then the third time, oh, you better look out. They must not know what they are up against. They must not understand. They can't just pull the wool over our eyes that we see and we understand, and they're getting away with something, right? If we forgive and then somehow we forget, we actually practice that grace in a new and profound way by wiping that slate clean. Then maybe we are suckers. Maybe we are fools. Maybe we don't really have our act together. And people can do whatever they want. And they can run roughshod all over us. And so Jesus makes a point. Very truly, I tell you, before the cock crows, you will have denied me 3 times. 3 times. In other Gospels, Peter says, Lord, not I. I would never do it. And Jesus kind of just lets those words of Peter hang there. Does not answer, does not respond. But here we are left with the words of Jesus. Very Very truly, I tell you, before the cock crows, you will have denied me 3 times. So, Peter is that person that we kind of like to chuckle about. Peter is one of those disciples that, in some ways, I think, because we see parts of ourselves in him, if we are the kinds of folks that kind of jump into things and maybe put our foot in our mouth and say anything that we shouldn't say, then Peter is that disciple that for some of us, we really relate to. And then others of us say, oh, that Peter, he couldn't get his act together, and I'm nothing like Peter. I think we kind of have an understanding of Peter in this process of forgiveness, and we kind of see him through a singular lens. He's just always the one who says something before he thinks. But there is time and there is space, at least for Peter, to think about the words that Jesus has said. This is a prediction that Jesus makes, but it is not everything. Because Peter's thinking, there must be a way that I can show Jesus up, that I can prove him wrong, that I can show that I'm better than this, that I'm not broken, that I'm okay, and that everything will be just fine. I will not deny him 3 times. He's thinking, he's processing in his head. But in the time and the space between which Jesus gathers his disciples for that last meal, and in the wee hours of the morning, things have only heightened. The situation has only grown more and more full of uncertainty. And it has grown only more and more full of tension and anxiety and fear because Jesus gets carted off in the crowd. Jesus is the one who is arrested. And if Jesus is arrested, then what about the rest of us? What about the rest of us? And so rather than looking at Peter as immature in his faith, maybe we need to all say, Lord, maybe I am a lot more like Peter than I realize. Maybe I want to do the right thing, but maybe I struggle with that. And maybe even though I know what forgiveness looks like, I struggle with forgiving myself, forgiving others. Sometimes I do the things that I know I should not do. The scripture continues. The story continues. In chapter 18, in verses 15 through 18, and then again in 25 through 27, we see after Jesus has been arrested, we see that there Peter again enters the scene in verse 15. He says, Simon Peter and another disciple followed Jesus. And since that disciple was known to the high priest, he went with Jesus into the courtyard of the high priest. But Peter was standing outside of the gate. So the other disciple who was known to the high priest went out, spoke to the woman who guarded the gate, and brought Peter in. The woman said to Peter, You are not also one of this man's disciples, are you? Right there by the high priest, right there in the midst, in the thick of it all, Peter succumbs to fear. Peter conveys a very human response. And he says, I am not. Maybe at this point, you could hear the tension in his voice. I don't know that quite yet there was the certainty as it built. But here in this very first denial, he says, I'm not. As he's exploring what that means to say that. And you can imagine that as he says it, he's thinking, who am I? And who is Jesus? Now the slaves and the police had made a charcoal fire because it was cold, and they were standing around it and warming themselves. Peter also was standing with them and warming himself, trying to look like everyone else, right? Trying to blend in with the crowd, trying not to stand out, trying not to look any bit different. And yet, one of the things that we know about our life and our walk in Christ is that we bear the mark of him who has been crucified and raised from the dead. And so we proclaim forgiveness even when it does not look like the advantageous thing to do. And yet Peter is in the midst of it, and he is just trying to make it through this night. He is every bit as human as us. In verse 25 to 27, it reads, Now Simon Peter was standing and warming himself, and they asked him the second time, You are not also one of his disciples, are you? He denied it and said, I am not. This time you can kind of sense that conviction coming upon him, wanting to make sure that maybe with this second denial, people will believe him. Right? They don't even believe him when he is lying. And yet, he is so far entrenched in it by this point in time that what other way and what other course can he chart? Can he go about? And so he continues. One of the slaves of the high priest, just the least of the least of the least, one that you think surely I can relate to, can connect to, that's not in a place of authority, but just kind of under. A relative of the man whose ear Peter had cut off asked, Did I not see you in the garden with him? Not even a follower, but did I just see you in the same place as Jesus? And again, Peter denied it. And at that moment, the cock crowed. At that moment, Peter heard his words. See, before that moment in time, he had not been in a place, in a space where he could fully understand and comprehend what it was that he was saying. He was going through the motions. He was caught up in his fear and his anxiety. He was caught up in his being human. But here in this moment, he realizes that what he has done. And can you imagine the weight of what he has done? Can you imagine the anguish that he feels inside of himself in this moment? You said it was going to happen not once, not twice, but 3 times. And I was convinced that it wouldn't happen. And yet you knew. And yet you knew. And here I am, and I'm stuck. And here I am. What can I do? How can I go about forgiveness in this moment? When am I going to see Jesus again and be able to rectify this situation? When am I going to be able to come to some better kind of conclusion than to leave it here? He's being off to be carted to his death. And what am I left with? But the words that I die inside of. Have you ever had a time in your life where it feels like all you could do was to do someone wrong? And every single time you try to do right, you end up doing wrong again. And you wonder, when will this cycle stop? And when is this hurt too great to bear? When is it all too much? And will I ever be able to see Jesus' face again in light of what I have done? You see, Peter dealt with hurt, but specifically, he dealt with shame. And I think a lot of with someone that we know and we love and we trust, and it comes upon us, the hearts of forgiveness are thrust upon us, it is the shame that lingers. It is the shame that just catches us and keeps us and holds us and binds us. And yet, where is Jesus in all this? It feels as if he's going further and further and further away. But see, that's not the end of the story for John's Gospel. That's not the end of where he goes, and it's not where we as Christians believe that the end is, because there is something richer and fuller about the work of forgiveness beyond what we can see, beyond what we know, and beyond what we experience. Listen to these words as we close out John's Gospel in chapter 21, verses 15 through 17. When they had finished breakfast, Jesus said to Simon Peter, he's there again with him. He says, Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these? He said, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. One time, Jesus said to him, feed my lambs. A second time, he said to him, Simon, son of John, do you love me? He said to him, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. Jesus said to him, then tend my sheep. He said to him the third time, is Peter overwhelmed in this moment? Is he annoyed in this moment? I'm not exactly sure. But he says to him a third time, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Peter felt hurt, yes, because he said to him the third time, do you love me? And he said to him, Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you. Jesus said to him, feed my sheep. Lord, you know everything. You knew that I would betray you. You knew that I would deny you. You knew that I was no better than Judas. You knew all of those things. And yet you chose to embrace me as one of your disciples. You chose to set me as the rock upon which you would build your church. You knew all of that. And yet you also knew to love me through all of that. You knew that shame was not to be the end result of this relationship. You knew, I love you, I love you, I love you. Feed my sheep, tend my sheep, feed my lambs. Over and over and over again, we get hit on the head by Jesus, saying, look, I understand that you get caught up in that shame. And I understand that you wonder, can I be forgiven of this? I understand that this world presents with it some difficult relationships that you may find. Is there something that I can move on past this? And Jesus says to us in that response, yes, there is hope. Yes, there is future. Yes, there is promise. Yes, there is resurrection song that comes out of this. That forgiveness can happen even when you feel that you are in your deepest and darkest place. And even when you feel that you cannot pull yourself up. Praise be God that you don't have to, but that Jesus is at work seeking to reconcile you to himself. Forgiveness is possible. It is possible when we are mired in shame. It is possible when we hang our heads low. It is possible. And there is a song that Jesus sings to us on the other side of all this, saying, be about the work of the kingdom when you don't know what else to do. Feed my lambs. Feed my sheep. Tend my flock. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.